Hey everyone, welcome back to TBM Sports. Let's talk about the NFC West showdown we have with the Arizona Cardinals and Seattle Seahawks. Get into this game that we have Thursday Night Football, 8:15 kick. Looking forward to this. We get Kyler a lot on primetime, and after the departure of James Conner, interested to see how the Arizona Cardinals do look. And this will be an exciting one in terms of being the only game on TV. I don't want to say it's the blockbuster game of the week. Definitely is not. But still, from a betting perspective, there are a lot of edges and props that I do like, as well as sides, totals. I'll break that all down for you guys here in this video and get you guys on your way. Exciting week in football and also just in the sports world in general. Ryder Cup play will be in back at it, and also the MLB. A lot of divisional races, wild card races coming to a close. The AL MVP battle. Also, we do have some great action in college football for Saturday, so definitely going to be one where you're going to make sure that you got your fridges stocked and your bankrolls full. Okay, so we'll talk about the first game tonight as we kick off the NFL Week 4. To do so, we will use Outlier. If you are not using Outlier, there is a 7-day free trial. I do encourage you guys all to check it out. If you don't like it after 7 days, cancel anytime, no questions asked. But in the industry, personally, I think that's the only way to say it is don't overpay for bets. Make the best bet possible. And if you're doing so, you're going to give yourself an advantage, especially for what we play on a daily unit basis. Do not be left basically in the dark. Make the best bet possible. And I think Outlier does that for me. I use it every single day. Sport regardless, it simply works for what I'm trying to do and saves me a whole boatload of time. Okay, but enough about that. Let's talk about the action we have going on, and this is going to be a very interesting game, seeing what the Cardinals look like post James Conner, and shout out to him. It's nice to see a good comeback story in the NFL after his bout with cancer and finding a new home in Arizona following kind of his stint in Pittsburgh. And he has been one of the more effective running backs, I think top 10 for me over the last few years. So it's very unfortunate whenever you do see an injury, especially one that is season ending, okay? But we look at this game, and Kyler does jump off at the page at me. There are some betting trends that I do like with him running the football in primetime. And also, we'll talk about kind of the sides on both sides in defense, okay? I think that Seattle... if you have not picked up the Seahawks, if they are available in any of your fantasy leagues that you guys play in, make sure you guys give them a look. They are, in some people's opinion, I know the schedule hasn't really been the most, I guess you would say, favorable. And outside of the San Francisco 49ers, I think it's been one where they haven't really had the toughest schedule after they played Pittsburgh and New Orleans offensively. But the Seattle Seahawks defense is legit, okay? A couple of the metrics that I will look into, DVOA, they are, in my opinion, a top 5 defense, no questions asked, and stopping the run is something they do definitely excel at, okay, the run defense in specific. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what comes in within Trey Benson for the Arizona Cardinals. I would say that he's probably a little bit better of a playmaker than Conner, but in between the tackles, even off tackle for Conner, gets you those hard-fought yards and also effective out of the backfield. But they are not really, I don't want to say taking a step back, because they are, but they are having to change gears a little bit in the backfield. That is something that is somewhat of a concern. But at face value, guys, this is one where the Seahawks have won 7 straight games against the Cardinals. So that is something to kind of note as we look back at the 7 straight matchups dating back into 2021. And they have been kind of interesting, okay? And I think this is I don't want to say a rivalry game, but as far as divisional games go, this is definitely one that I think does grab a lot of viewers' attention. And why we're going to be talking about it, though, is a lot of props that I do like, okay? And also, as we talk about the spread, the total, we're set at 43.5. We have fallen from 46.5. And also that the spread being a Cardinals home dog at +1.5. That is something where it has not budged whatsoever. A little bit more of the handle. And if we look into the betting splits, you want to kind of look at the Seahawks, right? They have taken some money, but they have not really moved quite enough to where we could say this has been sharp movement on the Seahawks. And it's one, though, as we look at them winning 7 straight games against the Cardinals, it kind of poses the question, why has this number not moved? Okay, I do think that when they do have such a tight spread and a low total, lower 40s, even upper 30s, I think it alludes to the fact that we're going to get basically a 1-score game or even a low-scoring blowout. But the number to get action on both sides. We're set at 1.5, so we'll be seeing how this number moves throughout the day. Cardinals have covered 4 straight games dating back to 2024. Both of these teams come into the ball game 2-1 on the year, and it's kind of a fishy number for me personally. I know that the Seahawks, great defense. The Cardinals are not slouchy on defense as well. Very effective stopping the run. We'll talk a little bit about Kenneth Walker in the backfield there. And the one thing that kind of jumps off at the page of me is that we do get the Sam Darnold-esque play, okay? And for whatever it's worth, he did well in Minnesota early on in the season, and now he's leading a Seahawks team that gave away Geno Smith and a couple other pieces that looked like they were handing in the towel. But they got that defense revitalized, and they are playing some football, and they are a nasty, nasty bunch. We'll talk about some of the games as they did put up 44 points. I know it was the Saints, but still very ugly. They put up 31 against Pittsburgh, which is not easy to do at Pittsburgh, and almost edging out San Francisco, losing 17-13 in week 1. We could be looking at a 3-0 team here, okay? So also, I do think that the Cardinals, right, if we talk about common opponents, week 1 against the Saints in New Orleans, I know it's a tougher place to play, but 20-13, they only beat the Saints, and that was one where, it wasn't as cut and dry as you think. And I think that's when Connor was in. They were full strength. They played well, but still, it's something where you look at this and how respectively the Seahawks took care of the Saints. And I know it was week 1, but the Cardinals still, just this number doesn't make sense to me. I personally would have the Cardinals more of a favorite at home. This would be probably, at worst 2.5, but I think this should be Cardinals plus 3.5. So if you do like the Seahawks, it's fishy, but I do think we have an advantage here, especially with the betting trends going back to the Seahawks taking care of business. Okay, so let's get into some of the props here. I will show you guys what I'm looking at. One thing about the Cardinals is they give up a lot of yards through the air. That's going to be something to note as we do see Sam Darnold looking to take on that aerial attack. But the play split that we will mention here is that the Seahawks run the ball. I believe it's like a 60-40 split. So if we want to talk about that, they do have a propensity to run the football. And the one thing about the Cardinals here, from a defensive standpoint, okay, they have the number 2 defense in the NFL in rushing touchdowns allowed. And also, this is where they are top 5, number 4 in run defense, as they have given up 76, 3.3 rushing yards per game. Now, Kenneth Walker, the workhorse there for the Seattle backfield, as long as he's healthy, in the first 3 weeks, guys, he's had an average of about 13 carries a game, and he had one big game against the Steelers where he did bust one, receiving the football. He's not really been targeted that much, and those reception yards have been down, contrasting his past year performance. And I think that as we look at it, guys, he's averaging about 50 yards on the ground if you do consider that one breakout game against the Steelers thus far. So not anything to get me involved within Kenneth Walker. I know he has 3 touchdowns. He had a multi-touchdown performance against the Saints. But going against the Cardinals here and looking at that touchdown number for him, I'm going to be staying away from him in terms of not just touchdown scored, but also from a rushing, receiving standpoint, basically crossing off Kenneth Walker going against his vaulted Arizona Cardinals defense, okay? Now, this is a prop that I do want to talk about, but first, I want to share with you guys kind of my first best bet of the game. We are going to be looking into the first half number, and I'm sure you guys have heard it by now as we do look at the game lines here for the first half. And I don't always look into quarters, first halves, but looking at this money line, and you can find Seattle minus 115. That does give you a push. I think that it's funny, though, if you do look into the first half spread category, right? Seattle plus a half at minus 130, okay? And I think that I did find that a little bit cheaper, but I think that if we do get somewhat of a tie, I mean, we've seen some of these Thursday night games, Monday night games, we have seen 9-9, 6-6s in these low-scoring contests where it would not shock me whatsoever if we were tied at halftime. So I'm going to be taking Seattle minus 130 plus a half in the first half. I'm trusting the numbers, backing against Kyler Murray. He has a horrible, I think it's a divisional record against the spread up to halftime, okay? And I think that's kind of where it does back up the trend. I think we get some value here. So my first official best bet, we're going to take Seattle plus a half point, okay? Plus a half point, minus 130 in the first half market. That will be my first official best bet Okay, and going back into it, one other thing I wanted to mention is I do have a lean towards the under. The number has fallen a little bit, so I'm not going to chase a 43.5. If this number does hit 44 throughout the evening or afternoon, I will be betting the under 44. I do like this one quite a bit, and I'm not scared to do a same game teaser where I do get the Seahawks plus some points, getting over those key numbers and also teasing that total down. So as it looks right now, if you wanted to get involved in that, that's where you would get basically, if you can find a Seattle -1 in the market, you would get Seattle +5. And also 6-point teasers, never take anything more under 49.5. So no 50 points in this game. But I do think that if you get Seattle +3, +4 in the hook to go alongside about under 49.5, I do favor that one quite a bit. And anybody that is confident with Seattle winning this game, I don't often do this, but I don't think there is anything wrong with taking Seattle on the money line, -120, and also parlaying that with the under 49.5, going accounting for all those key numbers there for a total. I think that will pay a pretty decent plus money price. Okay, so that's how I would approach it from the sides, from the totals. Let's hit some props real quickly. There are 5 players I want to talk about in specific. First being Cooper Kupp. Okay, a lot of people are looking at this as being maybe a breakout game for Kupp, but looking at some of his numbers thus far, in 3 games, he's had 2, 7, and 2 receptions, respectively. Total set at 3.5. You know, I just can't get down with that, especially when we look at kind of the yards per target. I think that has been very low. He's definitely getting worked out of the slot at the end of his career, as we all know, and his receiving yards, respectively, 15, 90, and 31. So outside of that big game against Pittsburgh, he has been kept under wraps. So I will be fading Cooper Kupp. That's just my take on it. The over 42.5, I'm going to be staying away from that. And the over under 3.5 receptions, I don't like that whatsoever. I know a lot of people will be looking into the reception touchdowns because he has been blank this season thus far. Plus 270 is a lot of juice. It's a great plus money price for somebody who does have a propensity to find his way into a corner of an end zone, catching a little quick pass. But that's going to be one where, guys, I'm just going to fade Cooper Kupp to go alongside fading Kenneth Murray as well. Now, outside of that, another Seahawks receiver that we are going to target, and I thought about this one for quite some time. I know that we look at the touchdowns. He has had three touchdowns in the last 2 games, okay? And this is where you can find Torrey Horton plus 425 anytime touchdown. If you think that streak continues, this is the best value on the board in tonight's contest, okay? So keep that in mind. The one thing to note, though, is the Arizona Cardinals going against wide receivers. They allow less than 1 touchdown to opposing wide receivers, so that ranks 5th in the NFL. Like I said, these are 2 great defenses. That's why I lend towards the under. And looking at this, guys, this is where plus 425, it's juicy, but I just would be very shocked if any Seahawks receivers actually found the end zone in this contest. But we will take him on the reception standpoint, and I did go back and forth. Should I take receiving yards? Should I take receptions? Well, guys, I like them both. And 24.5 at -120, definitely something I would consider for his receiving yards going over, especially as he has averaged 32 receiving yards in the last 2 contests. He was blanked against San Francisco. But as we look in the receptions allowed and receiving yards category, Arizona ranks in the bottom, the very bottom in that category defensively for the NFL. And I think it does get a little bit more juicy here as we do look in receptions allowed, as they do rank 31st in the NFL, allowing 16 receptions to opposing receivers. A lot of people think Sam Darnold will chuck it today, and I do like Torrey Horton, okay, over not 1.5. That's too much juice. I do think that one's as good as gold, though. But the over 2.5 at plus 140. I know that he's only done this in 1 of 3 contests, but I do think they get him a little bit more involved. A plus matchup at 2.5 at plus 140. It's too much value for me to turn down, so that will be one of my official best bets. If you guys don't like receptions and you just want to take receiving yards, I don't mind that whatsoever. But for me, I'm going to attack that plus 140 value going over 2.5 receptions, okay? Keeping it one more time here for the Seattle Seahawks. Jackson Smith and Jigba, that is one where, guys, he has been a remarkable player this year. And a lot of those Buckeyes receivers outside of the likes of the guy on the other side, as Marvin Harrison Jr., really hasn't done anything this season. I look for little JSN action here, as he has had 9, 8, and 5 receptions in the last 3 games. His total set at 6.5, which I don't mind that whatsoever. As I talked about, the receptions allowed versus receivers, and just in general, 32nd, basically dead last. The Cardinals are in the NFL. So I do like a little JSN going over his receptions. But if you want to talk about receiving yards, I think this is another one that you could attack. And also the longest reception, okay? Longest reception, he's had a 40, 43, and 44, 45. And right now you can find an over 25.5 at -108. So if you think that trend continues, I don't mind that bet whatsoever. That would be somewhat of a lean. And we'll talk about the receiving yards to kind of cap this off, as he has had almost basically averaging 100 plus yards per game, setting there at 79.5. I do like that one quite a bit as well. So strong lean towards JSN here within his receptions, receiving yards, and longest reception, but no play officially for me in this spot. Okay. The next bet, as we change gears and go into the Cardinals side of the offense, Kyler Murray here, okay, 27.5 is his rushing total. I do like this one quite a bit. As we look at the Seattle rushing yards versus a quarterback, the numbers don't back it up, but he has not faced a truly dual threat quarterback thus far. And I think that's kind of where we look into this consideration here as we talk about Kyler Murray going over his rushing total. He's at 38, 32, 37. I think he runs a little bit more in prime time as well. James Conner's not going to be in the fold, so he may have to, okay? He may have to. I think they will force him into some open lanes that do develop, putting pressure on him. That's what Seattle's going to want to do, and I think he does find his way scampering. And notably, though, in his two matchups in 2024, only 9 and 16 yards, respectively, against the Seahawks, so that does give me a little bit cause for pause, but I think that as we look into his rushes, as we want to look at rushing attempts, this is where we can look into 2025. He's had 7, 7, and 6 respectively. You can find that right now over 5.5 at -114. I don't mind that, but I do think he gets this one done on the ground. So I will be taking the Kyler Murray rushing yards. We're going to go over 27.5 at -114. Okay, that will be my second official play. Last one, Trey McBride. Okay, this is one where a lot of people want to go into the Trey McBride category, but I will say that Seattle, they have a very good pass defense as well. Like I said, for my money, guys, they might be the best defense in the NFL in present form. I know the opponents kind of dictate a lot of those numbers, but receptions allowed, the tight ends, and overall, Seattle that is their, I guess you would say, their Achilles heel. So I do think that he has very inflated numbers, and I have not bet him yet this season. 6.5 is his number at +100. He has failed to have 7 in any of the contests thus far. And looking at his receiving yards, 61, 78, and 43 respectively. If you want to take him over 64.5, I just can't get there, guys. I know that it does set up for a good matchup, but this is one where it's just there's not really an advantage or an edge when taking this, okay? The numbers are accounted for. We're not talking about the rookie Trey McBride and, where his totals are set at 5 receptions and 44.5 yards, and he goes for 9 grabs and 80 yards. We're not there anymore. The market has caught up to his numbers, and I know it's a plus matchup for McBride, but that's just another player that I'm staying away from. Okay, so that's about it. That is also something I want to say about Trey McBride to conclude before I do my recap. He does not catch touchdowns. Okay, and I just he had that monkey on his back last season. As you look into kind of his receiving touchdowns in 2024. He only had 2 touchdowns, albeit a very, very positive year, top 5 tight end in the NFL. He only had 2 touchdowns, and those came basically in the end of the season. So, he got that monkey off his back, but I still think that will continue as 2025. He only had 1 against San Francisco. So it's better, but it's still not where you would expect, the likes of some of the Mark Andrews numbers, the Travis Kelce numbers, and also some of the tight ends that do find the end zone more than not. Okay, so I'm staying away from McBride, staying away from Cooper Kupp, and also the running back for Trey Benson for the Cardinals. I'm also going to stay away from that, although I do think that he has an ability to do a little bit more explosive work than James Conner, okay? But a quick recap of the best bets, guys. If you have not done so, hit that like button, subscribe down below. That's where we're going to have 3 best bets. I'm taking Seattle plus a half point in the first half spread, okay? And you can find that at -130. Also, I will take the Kyler Murray rushing going over 26.5 or 27.5 now as the market has moved. That is the second bet. And then also Torrey Horton, we're going to go over 2.5 receptions at plus 140. Okay, those are my 3 best bets. Good luck out there. Let's cash some tickets. We will have a breakdown for the Thursday night college football, so make sure you have that notification bell turned on. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll see you in the next video. Cheers.